Millions in Syria and Iraq are facing water shortages as the region's longest river, the Euphrates, dries up.
When the Euphrates began to dry up, no one expected what surfaced to rewrite ancient history. Not just ruins, but a buried temple with symbols no one could read, rooms tuned to cosmic frequencies, and rituals soaked in blood. Scientists found warnings etched in stone. Do not disturb the watcher below. But they kept digging. What they uncovered next sent shock waves through archaeology, religion, and physics. And the worst part? This might not be the only one. The drought that unveiled the forgotten temple. When the Euphrates River began to dry up, most people thought the biggest concern would be agriculture or water shortages. But what emerged from the mud wasn't just ancient pottery or stone roads. It was a massive underground temple structure no one knew existed. Satellite scans showed something unusual first, an oddly symmetrical outline beneath the receding waters. When local archaeologists arrived in early 2022, what they found shocked the academic world. Parts of the structure were carved directly into bedrock, covered in engraved stone blocks older than anything previously found in the region, some dating back to at least 2,800 BCE. This wasn't just another Mesopotamian ruin. The walls were laced with carvings of creatures not typically associated with Sumerian mythology, figures with elongated limbs, double pupils, and crowns made of serpents. According to leaked field notes from a German-led excavation team, several bas-reliefs resembled the Anunnaki, but distorted. Not majestic gods, but twisted humanoid entities with exposed ribs and fanged mouths. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. A local oral legend from a nearby village warned that, when the river recedes, the eye of the buried one will open again. Most locals avoided the site entirely, calling it cursed. Some even claimed their livestock grew sick after drinking from pools nearby. Geologists confirmed that the drought had lowered the Euphrates to its weakest flow in 50 years, revealing not only this temple but several other strange depressions in the same area, suggesting a network. It raised terrifying theories. Was this temple intentionally buried to keep something locked inside? Some researchers speculated it could be connected to the prophecy found in the Book of Revelation, which refers to 4 angels bound beneath the Euphrates, waiting to be released during the end times. Adding fuel to the mystery, infrared scans revealed intense cold spots deep inside the structure, despite scorching surface temperatures. The theory: there might be sealed chambers deeper underground, untouched for millennia. The unearthed chamber and its sinister geometry. When excavation crews reached the inner sanctum of the temple, they didn't expect to find a room carved from a type of black basalt stone not native to the region. The chamber walls were unnaturally smooth, reflecting light in strange ways, almost like obsidian, but colder. In the center stood an altar-like structure, flanked by 2 upright pillars with metallic inlays that responded to magnets, even though they appeared to be stone. But it wasn't just the materials that alarmed the scientists. It was the design. The room's proportions weren't random. Mathematical analysis revealed that the dimensions aligned precisely with astronomical phenomena. The axial precession cycle of the Earth, which spans roughly 26,000 years. One corner of the chamber had a shallow groove system carved into the floor, directing liquid toward a drain. Residue analysis suggested a high iron content, consistent with blood. But this wasn't mere sacrifice. It appeared ritualistic and systematic, more like a mechanism than a ceremony. Archaeologist Dr. Leila Hassani noted in her report that the room echoed properties similar to resonance chambers found in other ancient megalithic sites like Malta's Hypogeum or Egypt's Osirian. Using frequency tests, the team discovered that certain tones, especially in the 110 Hz range, caused subtle vibrations in the chamber walls. This tone is historically associated with altered mental states and trance-like visions in ancient rituals. On the northern wall, a series of carvings showed a line of kneeling figures facing a larger, horned entity emerging from a hole in the earth. Above them, a circular diagram showed eclipses and alignments, but using 12-pointed stars instead of the typical Mesopotamian 8-pointed symbols. Some believe this may indicate an unknown cult, possibly older than the Sumerians, with knowledge of cosmic events beyond what history allows. Even stranger? A pocket-sized stone orb was found lodged behind the altar. When extracted, it emitted a faint magnetic field, despite having no known power source. Scientists at the University of Baghdad are still trying to determine its composition. One theory suggests it may be a form of geolodestone, programmed to react with specific environmental changes, like a buried alarm system. The tablet no one can decipher, and the warning it carries. Behind the magnetic altar, embedded inside a cracked wall panel, a stone tablet was discovered, one that immediately stopped the excavation team in their tracks. Unlike the typical wedge-shaped cuneiform found in ancient Mesopotamia, this slab bore a hybrid script, a fusion of Sumerian, Elamite, and something completely unknown. The grooves were too precise to have been carved by hand. Some characters resembled spirals intersected by horizontal ticks, almost binary in form, while others echoed serpent-like curves looping into each other, like an unbreakable knot. Initial translation efforts managed to identify only fragments, but one line, etched deeper than the rest, stood out. "The watcher below must not be disturbed." The phrase repeated 7 times across the tablet, always followed by variations of a symbol, a vertical eye flanked by curling lines, often interpreted as roots or tendrils. Some believe this could refer to an underworld deity, possibly connected to the Anunnaki or even pre-Sumerian abomination gods, referenced only in obscure Akkadian fragments. Linguist Dr. Arturo Demir, who examined the slab, compared parts of the unknown glyphs to markings found on the Gonur Tepe burial site in Turkmenistan, believed to be the cradle of the forgotten Margiana civilization. What's chilling is that both inscriptions include references to something called Ishkaru, loosely translated as the one who slumbers beneath the rivers. This name has no record in mainstream Mesopotamian lore. Even more unsettling, the reverse side of the tablet showed a carved diagram of the Euphrates splitting into 4 paths, encircling a circular pit in the center, suggesting a location beneath the river. Each path ends in an offering symbol: blood, fire, air, and shadow. It appears to be a ritual map. Rumors began spreading among workers at the dig site. 2 team members reportedly refused to return after handling the tablet, complaining of vivid nightmares involving voices whispering in languages they didn't understand. Another reportedly went missing for 12 hours, found sitting on the riverbank in a trance, murmuring the phrase, "It's waking up," over and over. Iraqi authorities have since placed military guards around the site, but the artifact was quickly flown out to an undisclosed lab believed to be in Germany. Officially, no further comments have been made about the translation. The ritual mural that shook the scientific team. Just when the investigation team thought they had reached the core of the mystery, they uncovered a narrow corridor behind the tablet chamber, partially sealed by debris. Once cleared, the corridor led to a small circular room, no more than 3 meters wide, with a domed ceiling blackened by ancient burn marks. What made this chamber different wasn't just its size or isolation. It was what covered the walls, a continuous graphic mural depicting a ritual unlike anything found in Mesopotamian history. The entire mural formed a sequence, like a storyboard, but with horrifying clarity. It showed robed figures, masked and barefoot, standing in concentric circles around a bound human figure. Above them hovered a spiral-shaped entity, descending from the ceiling. One panel appeared to show the soul of the sacrifice being siphoned upward, while another depicted the same victim's body being infused into a stone idol. The final frame showed villagers kneeling before that very statue. with their eyes bleeding. Under blacklight analysis, scientists noticed residue of psychotropic compounds in fine grooves around the mural, traces of harmful alkaloids, known hallucinogens used in ancient Persian fire rituals. The implication? Participants in these ceremonies weren't just sacrificing, they were entering altered states, possibly to channel or receive something. In fact, burn patterns on the floor suggest that this room may have been used repeatedly. Fire marks align with the positioning of the figures in the mural. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't visual. Deep within the wall plaster, researchers extracted trace amounts of unidentifiable proteins, organic material that didn't match any known species. A leaked note from a biochemist stated plainly, "This sample is not human, not animal, and not environmental. It appears lab-grown, but the structure predates known bioengineering." Whispers soon spread among the team about the mural depicting a binding ritual, one meant to fuse an external entity with a physical object. Some even believe the orb found earlier was a receptacle, possibly containing memories, or something more alive. A few scientists refused to re-enter the chamber altogether. One senior researcher reportedly fled the site the same night, citing dreams where the spiral entity from the mural stood over his bed, whispering in syllables he couldn't repeat when awake. The Euphrates interference phenomenon, and the signal from below. Roughly 3 weeks after the chamber mural was documented, a new kind of disruption began to emerge. Not ancient, but modern. Engineers working on the excavation site's logistics reported a strange pattern. Drones malfunctioned, GPS devices glitched, and live satellite relays suffered localized signal interference. At first, it was brushed off as magnetic minerals in the basalt, but then ground-penetrating radar units, using completely different systems, began returning inverted depth readings, showing negative values, as if something was emitting from below, pushing back. The interference zone formed a perfect radius of 7 meters around the heart of the temple, fluctuating slightly each day. Military surveillance tried to override the signal to map it, but even encrypted frequencies experienced looping static. And within that static, analysts discovered a faint but repeating pattern. A signal burst cycling every 6 minutes, structured like prime number pulses used in early space communication theory. That's when whispers began. Some researchers claimed this was the same kind of frequency architecture reported at Göbekli Tepe, the hypogeum of Halsaflieni, and even under Lake Vostok in Antarctica, sites long rumored to be connected by a forgotten global language of energy. A theory emerged. The buried temple beneath the Euphrates wasn't isolated. It might be part of a network, each node sealed in ancient times to prevent resonance activation. Adding to the intrigue, a team member working off-site compared the markings from the Forbidden Tablet to fragments from a lost Babylonian astronomical scroll catalogued in Berlin in the 1940s. He found a matching sequence of symbols arranged like a lunar clock, counting down from a date lost to time. According to the final line in that scroll, translated in hushed tones by a Sumerologist, "When the river speaks again, the stars will align, and the buried shall rise." Today, the area is fully restricted. Locals report low humming sounds at night, animals refusing to approach, and even one case of a shepherd who claimed the ground breathed under his feet near the site perimeter. The excavation has stopped. The official reason? Safety. But insiders say it's because whatever's buried there is no longer dormant. The forbidden manuscript that matches the temple's design. While researchers scrambled to make sense of the strange electromagnetic anomalies and the symbols on the unearthed tablet, an independent scholar from Istanbul, Dr. Reza Khaldun, claimed he had seen something eerily similar decades ago. Not in an archaeological dig, but inside the Vatican's secret archives. According to his suppressed report, a heavily restricted manuscript, written in Syriac Aramaic, described in chilling detail the existence of a subterranean altar built beneath the Mother of Rivers. The manuscript, catalogued as Codex Invictus 13D, was never released to the public, allegedly due to its theological incompatibility with church doctrine. But Dr. Khaldun retained fragments copied by hand. These included a diagram matching almost exactly the spiral altar and circular blood grooves found beneath the Euphrates. More disturbing was a passage that described rituals performed to seal the fractured gate, involving 4 elements, 12 sacrifices, and the chanting of star names lost to Babylonian astronomy. But it didn't stop there. The manuscript warned of a false temple built to mimic the holy geometry, constructed not for worship, but for suppression, to keep something bound under the earth's crust. It referenced an ancient rebellion not among men but among beings who walked before the clay-breathing ones were born. The writer explicitly warned, "Should the seal crack and the cycle complete, the ones cast down shall speak again, not with voices, but with gravity and dream." Scholars have long dismissed this as apocalyptic nonsense, until now. When Dr. Khaldun shared his drawings with the excavation team, they found 11 exact matches between symbols in the manuscript and those carved into the buried Euphrates structure. That number is important because the final missing symbol, the 12th, was found beneath the orb once lodged in the altar. Together they form a complete ritual key, almost like a lock mechanism. Theories now suggest the Euphrates Temple was not just a religious site, it was a containment facility designed by a forgotten civilization that somehow understood geophysical pressure, resonance, astronomy, and something else. The sound that shouldn't exist, and the door it opened. During a final attempt to digitally scan the deepest corners of the Euphrates Temple before the site was locked down, a small audio device was left running overnight inside the chamber, not for ritual purposes, but simply to record ambient conditions. When the team returned the next morning and reviewed the audio, they didn't expect silence, nor did they expect chaos. What they heard was something else entirely. The recording began with faint, rhythmic pulses, evenly spaced, like breathing. Then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., a deep frequency hum emerged, too low for the human ear to generate. As it escalated, the device picked up a series of overtones, resembling vowel sounds, similar to ancient throat singing found in Tibetan or Mongolian rituals. But these overtones formed repeating structures, which, when run through spectral analysis, produced waveforms shaped like the same sigils found on the altar. The audio, when visualized, looked like the language was singing itself, but that wasn't the worst part. Roughly 30 seconds after the hum began, the recording picked up a grinding sound, like stone shifting against stone coming from within the sealed floor of the chamber. Immediately after, the temperature inside the room dropped by almost 12 degrees Celsius, despite no airflow system being present. A small crack appeared along the base of the altar by morning. The team ran a control test using sound engineers from Ankara University. They recreated the low-frequency tones using an artificial resonance chamber, and got the same result. Objects around the altar vibrated without contact, and the base plate of the structure briefly rotated 3 degrees counterclockwise, revealing a previously hidden compartment containing ash, burnt bone fragments, and a polished black shard unlike any known material. Acoustic physicist Dr. Mehmet Ozdal called it the most responsive resonance structure I've ever seen in an ancient site. He theorized that the temple may have been built as a harmonic vault, activated only by specific sound frequencies, much like a lock that opens not with a key, but with a voice. Ancient Sumerian hymns, some recovered from nearby clay tablets, are now being tested for their potential to trigger the same phenomena. And one of them, it ends with a line that no one can explain. "The river listens, the stones remember, call him, and he shall echo." It's not just the Euphrates, other rivers are giving up their secrets. Just weeks after the Euphrates Temple incident made headlines in hushed academic circles, reports began surfacing of similar, almost identical, discoveries beneath other major rivers across the globe. In India, the Sarasvati River, long thought to be a myth, had sections exposed by drought that revealed buried stone alignments and a circular platform etched with spiraling sun symbols. In China's Yangtze River, divers stumbled across submerged stone heads with elongated skulls, arranged in a ritual pattern and facing west, toward Mesopotamia. But the most disturbing parallel came from Germany, where parts of the Elbe River dried up to reveal a previously undocumented megalithic site bearing inscriptions that matched the same hybrid script found on the Euphrates tablet. That site included a stone pillar with 12 empty sockets, mirroring the ritual key from the sealed Euphrates altar. Carbon dating placed the Elbe structure at over 6,000 years old, predating any known culture in the region. Researchers began cross-referencing these findings and noticed an eerie trend. The symbols, materials, and orientations weren't just similar, they were nearly identical, as if built by the same forgotten culture that had once stretched across continents. And all were hidden beneath rivers. That detail matters. Every one of these mysterious sites seems to have been buried, not destroyed, not abandoned, but intentionally submerged, as if the water itself was meant to be a seal. A controversial theory began to circulate. What if these ancient people knew a planetary event was coming? Something that activated through celestial alignment or vibrational frequency, and built these sites under rivers to delay it, to cool it, to drown it? One geologist from the University of Tbilisi leaked a study that found resonance fields in these sites spike during solstice alignments and increase as river levels drop. The lower the water, the higher the pulse. Drop your theories below, subscribe, and click the card on screen now.